By the end of this video, you'll know everything it takes to change the oil in a 2010 Honda Accord 3.5 V6 Coupe. Let's get to it. First up, we're going to secure our car and place rubber chocks behind the wheels. Make sure your car is in park with the emergency brake on. This way, when we lift it, it's not going to move anywhere. If you're adventurous, you can skip this step and just leave the car flat, but it makes it easier to get to things if you've got the car lifted. Speaking of lifting, let's get that done. First step is to locate your lift point on the underside of your car. Mine looks like this. With your 3-ton lift, go ahead and lift it up to operational height. Once complete, it's time to place our jack stands underneath our car. Make sure to place them where they're supposed to go, otherwise you might end up crushing something that you don't want to and making this a lot more expensive than you need. You can tell where they go because of these metal pieces attached to the frame. Now that they're adjusted, place the safety pins in the jack to make sure they stay in place. Get your jack stands as close as you can to your car, because once you lower it down, you don't want it to jar too much. Kind of like this. Yeah, that's not good. Now that your jack stands are in place and your car is secure, it's time to test to make sure that it's not going anywhere. Gently press on the side of the car to see if there's any lateral play. If not, you should be alright. Locate your oil engine cap, which should be located on the front right side of your engine, and take special note of what oil it says to place in your engine. For my car, it's 5W20, and that's what we're going to use. Now remove the cap, and let's move to the next step. The oil drain plug is located next to the passenger front right tire. It's labeled as such, so it's pretty hard to miss. Place your oil collection pan slightly in front of where the oil drain plug is. It's going to come out with force, and to avoid a mess, it's best to try to collect it all. Take a 17mm socket and ratchet and loosen up the plug. Ugh, that didn't go as smoothly as I wanted it to. Now that it's loose, apply positive pressure with your hand and unscrew. This positive pressure keeps the oil from coming out before you want it to, and it allows you to keep track of the oil drain plug itself. Now it's time to let it drain. This will take a bit, but it's important to make sure that you collect all of the oil. Next up, it's time to replace the oil filter. On my Accord, the easiest way to get to it is behind the passenger front right wheel. If you turn your steering wheel all the way to the right, it's going to make it easier to get to this. I'm going to place some shop rags down here to collect the oil that spills out when we remove this filter. You probably won't be able to remove this with your hand, so an oil filter removal tool is probably going to be necessary. But once it's loosened, using your hands is definitely the way to go. This filter will have a lot of oil in it, so make sure to keep it upright. Make sure the oil filter gasket comes away with the oil filter. The last thing you want is to install a new filter on this old gasket. Speaking of the new filter, I'm going to go with a Purolator. The YouTube channel Brand Ranks has an excellent video explaining which modern oil filters perform the best. It's important to add oil to the gasket of your new filter. This ensures a proper seal. Once applied, it's time to install. Just twist it on by hand, and using hand strength only, tighten it the rest of the way, making sure it's very secure. Unless you're extremely lucky, there will always be some oil left over, so let's get that cleaned up. Awesome, filter's installed, let's install a new drain plug. I've opted to go with a new drain plug and crusher washer from Votex. This one has a magnetic tip on it. This will actually collect any metal particles that are floating around in the suspended oil that your oil filter doesn't catch. Using a torque wrench and that same 17mm socket, let's get this thing installed. The torque spec for this drain plug is 29 foot-pounds, so let's tighten it till we hear that click. There we go. Stick around to the end of the video and we'll show you whether or not this drain plug picked any metal particles up from my oil suspension. Now it's time to fill the car up with oil. You don't have to use a funnel, but I like to because it keeps things nice and clean. This car takes 4.5 liters of oil, and that's what we're going to put inside of it. I'm using high mileage full synthetic, and if you're watching this video, you should probably use that too. Alright, it's all added, so let's lower the car and check that oil level. Remove the oil stick, clean it up, place it back in, pull it back out, and let's see where we land. Perfect. Replace the oil gauge and make sure it's secure. Now just clean up and you're all done. As usual, I'll link to all the products used in this video below, and if you have any thoughts or questions, ask them below and I'll do my best to answer them. Now let's check on that drain plug and see what we got. There might be a couple flakes in here if we look real close, but it's not terrible. But to be on the safe side, I might investigate my engine a little further. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and until the next one, happy fixing.